Hey guys, and welcome back to the Supercoach Swordplay channel. You're on with me, Janath. I've got DR, and I've got a very, very special guest. So some of you guys have been guessing in the comments section who the next member of our GOAT series is. And DR, I think it was a bit of a journey finding this man, but we have found the 2025 winner, Blake. Before I get to you, Blake, DR, how are you, mate?
Oh, how do you reckon I am? The third episode of the GOAT series, and we have the man, the myth. No one can track this man down, Janath. No one can track this man down. They're all looking for him, but through another previous winner, we have been able to locate the 2025 winner, Blake. Mate, it is an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you on. How have you been, legend?
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, it still feels pretty crazy that I did win last year. So, yeah, just happy to be on.
No, I love to hear that, Blake. Well, I guess we'll crack straight into it because of all the winners that we could come up with, you are our most recent one. And so I guess a lot of the viewers will be very keen to see basically how 2025 is a direct translation into 2026. You've got the flex, you've got the extra trades, we've got all that. So before we head into sort of the 2025 season itself, give us a little insight, Blake, into how long you've been playing Supercoach. Have you come close to winning Supercoach in the past? Tell us those details if possible.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact year that I started, but I'd say I've been playing for around 15 years. I tried out AFL Dream Team for a year or two when I was about 10 years old, I think. I don't know what my rankings would have been back then, but I think I've come a long way since a little 10-year-old having a go. But no, I've never really come that close. Like I generally finish around the top 1 to 2%. But it's always felt like there was a pretty big gap between that and then the top 0.1%. Yeah, this was the year where it all just sort of fell into place, I guess.
So you've never sort of said, let's say you've come into the top 100 and you're like, there's only minor things that I need to change up to really crack into that top 10 to win, of course? Or would you say like you've hit the top 1,000 and then you sort of said, oh, I probably need to change my approach here?
I don't think I really changed my approach. I think sort of being around that mark, eventually just for whatever reasons, like things just sort of went my way. Trades that were a bit speculative sort of turned and worked out for me. And then I missed out on a little bit of carnage here and there. And just sort of, I think that gap between finishing 1,000th and first is actually probably a bit smaller than you sort of think.
And that gives a lot of our viewers a lot of optimism, I guess, in saying if the gap between 1,000 and first isn't a whole changing mindset and change in team structure, and all, it is quite achievable with a little bit of luck, as you mentioned, Blake. Well, I guess sort of the last question of this section, talking about just your history here. What really worked for you in 2025, and what would you put down your ultimate win to if it had to be the one thing in particular?
I'd say I think the obvious thing was to hold on to trades as long as you can into the season. That was sort of my last trade was how I was able to win in the end. But also at sort of on the other side of things, I think you can be really aggressive at the start of the season with 40 trades and 5 boosts. I think that's where you can really set your team up. So it's kind of, it's one end and then the back end. It's you can play it really aggressively and then sort of try and leave your team alone right at the end. I'd say those sort of two things was what was able to get me over the line.
Yeah. Different gears it seems. So you put the foot on the accelerator at the start, but then Janath, it seems like this great man just went into cruise control for a little while, conserve some petrol, and then at the end, when everyone's pockets are empty, bang, there we go. And did touch on the fact that it really helped him to actually win. And that's been a bit of a common theme in the last couple of potties that we've done in the GOAT series. Everyone's had at least one trade at the end. So for those people that go and whack, and maybe with 5-6 weeks to go, you're sitting on duck eggs, maybe think twice, particularly during that mid bracket of the season. Maybe you don't need to go as aggressive as maybe what I've been thinking myself anyway. So brilliant insight into that,
And
mate. Anything
also
you want to touch on, Janath?
Just the last thing I think Blake's just presented the perfect scenario where you can be aggressive and conservative at the same time. It's not mutually exclusive in that you have to be ultra aggressive throughout or you have to be ultra conservative. You can be aggressive but still play it safe near the end. I think that's like the ideal scenario if you've got the right starting team. Before we get to starting team though, DR, do you want to talk a little bit with Blake about preparation and research?
Yeah, it seems I'm teaching. Well, not how can you teach cross country? We're talking about running at a steady pace at the moment, Janath, with the kids at school. Got the cross country in 8 weeks, and I think that's another analogy. Just run at that. Sometimes at the start you need to go a little bit faster just to get a bit of a gap, then you ease off, and sometimes at the end you go bang as well. So a bit of a cross country type analogy, I think. But mate, we know that the preseason games are obviously coming up. Some previous winners have been, really into that preseason research and really taking a close look at the preseason games. But question for you, great man, is how much attention do you actually pay to the preseason games? And would you say that your team changes much, say, within the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I try not to take too much into the preseasons. Like I'm sort of obviously looking at players' roles and certain players, if they've moved to a new club, how they're going to fit in there. But I try not to get too sucked into what some of the coaches have to say. Like I feel like every coach is going to hype their players up and talk about how they've never looked better. So I try and just sort of, try and avoid any of that kind of talk. But finding out where, what role they're actually going to be playing, I think that is pretty important. So yeah, I think you've just got to know what to look out for in the preseason, but it's not the be all and end all. It's that, the coaches are still figuring things out as well. So yeah.
That's a good point. And actually, my next question had a little bit to do with coaches as well, about balancing those qualitative insights like those player interviews or the coaches' comments. So I think you've sort of answered that in regards to what the coaches say. And I really agree with you. Of course, you've got to pump up your players, mate. You're not going to say, oh, they're terrible at the moment. Going to be a tough season coming up. So absolutely agree with you there, mate. You really need to take some of these comments with a grain of salt. Even something like the Connor McDonald situation at the moment. Some people are just gone, bang, he's out of the side after Sam Mitchell's comments. There's a few that may still stick fat, but that's a perfect example there. How much do we take that into account or not? Or is it just a bit of preseason talk and maybe a bit of chess potentially, mate? But look, apart from the coaches' comments, how about the stats? So if we're looking at things like historical data, those blokes that have been there, done it before, we have those real breakout type Ubers, for example, like a Finn Callahan. But how much of that do you actually take into account? Historical stats and data, what players have actually done before?
Yeah, I mean, I like to go through quite a bit of their past history. I don't really want to be picking players that have maybe only done it for a year or so. Callahan, he might be an exception. As with all these sort of rules, like sometimes you need to break them. But yeah, generally I like to be picking the guys that have done it for a few years and have proven that they're up to that level. And then again, it's sort of role dependent. If they're being moved around, even if they've averaged 120 in the past, but now they're playing in a different position, then there's no point sort of going there. So yeah, I generally like to have had a few years of proven high scoring if that's where I want to go down that road. Yeah.
Love it, mate. So it seems like you like a bit of role stability. So those players, where they're going to be playing week upon week, not those utility types that could fill a gap here and there when need be. You like someone that you can basically lock in week upon week this is where he's going to play. So I think that's a really good point as well, because I think for AFL football in general, for AFL coaches, those utility types are fantastic. They're the players you really love to have on your side. But in a Supercoach sense, not as much. And I agree with you. That's something I've really been looking for as well, mate, is that sort of role clarity with players. Last one, mate, with preparation and research. Now, hindsight is obviously a wonderful thing, but what underrated aspects of player preparation? We could talk about injury history, due to role, fixture changes, and difficulty. What's really had the biggest impact on your success? Can you think back to what really worked well? What did you focus on? Just tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, I think as we've sort of been saying, like the role is really important, whether it's a midfielder or a ruck or someone playing sort of loose defense, taking kickouts. You're sort of generally looking for those three things. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the new ruck rules, whether that's going to change things, but yeah, generally looking for those types of players. And then the fixture with my starting team, I'm not super worried about the fixture. I think that comes into play towards the back end of the year. That's when you're making those last few upgrades. That's when you can look at who their next, 5 to 6 or however many opponents are. And then injuries. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to be going after someone that's had any kind of preseason niggles or anything like that. If they've had injuries in previous years, but they've had a good preseason, I'm sort of a bit more okay looking at that. But yeah, really trying to avoid any kind of nonsense in the preseason. I don't think you need to take on that risk.
Yeah, Blake.
Could I just give you a question? Sorry.
Go.
Just a quick example, mate. I'm going to just throw Adam Treloar's name out there. Really popular pick before that setback. Now, speak with Matty from the Kennel. If you haven't watched that team preview, make sure that you do. But he's apparently going to be available on the 19th. So let's just say, for example, he plays a couple of pracky matches, actually looks pretty good, even if it's in limited game time. Because of that preseason setback, is he the type of player that you're now going, nah, not even a chance now that that's happened?
Well, at his price point, I think that's sort of where it gets a bit sort of murky. Like if he was a bit more expensive, I'd definitely say no. But at that price point, you can sort of start to look at those types of players. It's kind of the same with Parrish and Hayden Young. Like, ideally, I'd probably start all of them, but whether you can take on that much risk, I'm not too sure. So, yeah, it kind of depends. But when they're priced like that, it becomes a lot more interesting. Yeah.
Very, very good point.
Yeah. I was just going to touch on that, Blake, very quickly. Is for an injury-prone play, let's take a Parrish or a Young or a Treloar. What constitutes a good preseason for you? Is it, for instance, getting through session and looking okay? Is it flying and getting contest to contest? Like, are there certain markers you're looking for in a play that's had an injury history, either in training or in the practice matches?
Yeah, I mean, if they're getting through the practice matches, I'm feeling okay about it. And yeah, just really trying to, I guess you listen to the coaches there, and if they're saying, he's going to miss a week here or a week there, that's when you start to maybe worry a little bit. But yeah, if they're getting through those practice matches and look to be, all good for round one at their prices, like, yeah, I think you can go there. It's just whether you want to go for all three. That's where it gets, I think, really interesting. I'd happily, at the moment, they're all in my side. So whether they stay there, I'm not too sure.
So you're happy to take on that injury risk if you see a fair bit of value in the pick. So
yeah.
We're not talking premium type players here. I'm assuming that the premiums you're locking in are those blokes with pretty good durability history and runs on the board as well, Blake? Yeah,
the top end players, I want them to be there, all year, and I don't really want to have to worry about any kind of injuries. So yeah, I'm not looking for as much value in the top end of things. You can find value with your rookies and your mid prices, but I think to start the year, I'm pretty happy to pay up for the absolute top end guys.
I like that. And that brings me to
Awesome.
another analogy, like the old private school uniform. Blake wants the blazer. He needs a blazer. You can go with some cheap socks and jocks and all that sort of stuff, but a nice shirt so it looks like he spends up where he has to on the absolute quality, but then he can skimp on some of those other things. Maybe some jocks from the op shop, if that floats his boat type thing. But yeah, really, really interesting there, mate. The fact that you are prepared to pay up if you think it's absolute quality, and you're also prepared to take on a little bit of risk, but if there's a little bit of value there, we're not really paying up. Someone like a Jai Caldwell is an example I'll throw up. A player I'm really keen on, but just at his price with his injury history, I just can't go there myself. So very, very good discussion there. Janath, anything else, mate, before you want to take over for the next section?
No, nothing there. And I think it leads perfectly into the next session in itself about the starting team, sort of team selection, what goes into picking your starting team. So, Blake, I'll start off by asking you, how did you prioritize the positions in your starting squad? Did you sort of have criteria to identify those value picks? And I've heard sort of in past years that, for instance, for me, I have certain rationale for picking players, like their objective in the side. Did you have anything like that?
I think I was sort of playing it, I guess, the traditional sort of boring way of you've got your rookies and your really top end guys. I don't really see the need in trying to find a whole heap of pods and unique players, because in the end, like your team's it's going to be unique anyway. It doesn't matter how many highly owned players you've got. You're never going to match up with someone who has the exact same team as you. So yeah, I'm pretty happy taking on those sort of pretty highly owned players that you know that they're being picked for a reason. And yeah.
Like where do you sit on, for instance, the Bond, Dacos, Butters types? Like in terms of players that are really expensive, good captaincy options, do you tend to start them as opposed to wanting to get them in at a slightly lower price?
Yeah, I think I'm generally looking to pay up with my starting side, just getting in the captaincy options and those sorts of players, and then throughout the year, I think that's when you can look to find value. And like for me, last year I was able to get Dawson at about 490k, Rail for about 490k, Heaney for around 500. So there were sort of all those guys that you think are probably top 8 or close enough to top 8. And for whatever reason, they've had a few down weeks, and then you can save so much money by doing it like that.
The magical part about that, Blake, is the blokes you just mentioned there, Rao, I remember last year didn't start well, finished like a house on fire. Heaney didn't start well. Goulden and Mills came back inside, finished like a house on fire. Dawson, same scenario. So it really just goes to show, like, players that drop to a bad price, they may just be not that good that season. But as you mentioned, Blake, you picked off the right players there. And I guess from that perspective, when you are picking the premiums in your starting side, do you pay a lot of attention to fixtures, or are you just happy to go with the names that have worked for you in the past? Like, what sort of goes into picking those premiums?
Yeah, I think with the starting picks, I don't really think the fixture matters too much. You're picking them for the whole season. So, but yeah, as the season goes on, I think that's where you can look to exploit some of those matchups, especially with your last few trades there, because by your last few upgrades, there's only a handful of weeks left. So that's when you can really look to exploit some of those matchups. So I think it as the season goes on, it becomes a bit more important to look out for the fixture.
It's a great point you've raised there about the starting premiums you have. It doesn't matter if their fixture is perfect for the first 5 weeks or not that good for the first 5 weeks, if your intention is to hold them throughout the season and have them as that captaincy option. And I guess one thing that a lot of coaches have in the back of their mind with their premiums is the buys. And so last year, just as a good example, you started 4 Freo players in both the big mids, so Wrong and Brayshaw, Nathan O'Driscoll and Murphy Reed as the latter two as rookie options. Did you take into consideration much about the Fremantle buy? Were you almost like, when I need to cross that bridge, I will get there?
Yeah, it was probably a bit more of that, to be honest. I think the buys, it wasn't up until probably round 8 or 9, or when I was starting to really get the upgrades sort of coming in weekly. That's when I was really looking at the buys. But I don't think I was too worried about it with my starting picks. It's a bit different this year. The buy structure's a bit, not quite sure what to make of it yet. So yeah, it'll be different this year again. But yeah, I think last year I was probably about a month out from the buys. That was when I was really starting to try and plan around them.
Yeah, I think that's almost the perfect segue to talk about in-season management. So you've mentioned that you want to pay up for your premiums. You don't really care too much about starting fixtures, and you're not too worried about buys. But how does this evolve in season? I'll hand it over to you, mate.
Really interesting. There's been some real similarities so far, Janath, between the way that these previous winners approach the game. JP was another one. Not big on the fixture. He said, no, I couldn't believe it. I thought, you've got to take this into account at the start of the season. But we're hearing this advice over and over again from the best of the best. So I think I really need to think hard about my team. I may need to rejig things. But one question, Blake, and this is a selfish question before we get on to the next part. Janath knows what it is. Are you thinking of starting the Bond? Is the Bond currently in your team, mate?
He's not, but he should be. He should be in that team.
I'm doing what the previous winners.
I'll probably find a way to get him in. Yeah.
Could we ask possibly, Blake, who your M1 to 3 looks like at the moment?
At the moment,
or maybe M1 and 2, if you don't want to give too much away.
At the moment, it's Butters and Noah Anderson, but I'm not sure if I'm not sort of sold there. So it'll probably be Anderson to Bont at some stage.
Yeah, valid.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. The M1, the M2, Janath. I think I may be on the right track. But, this game isn't necessarily about nailing the starting team to the nth degree. Plenty of winners before haven't had the ultimate start to the season, but through good in-season management, specifically through trading, that's what's really given them the edge. Now, the question's going to be basically around how you traded last year. And one thing that you've already touched on before, and you did say that luck plays a bit of a part, but it's also great decision-making. Rao, Heaney, and Dawson. Is that an approach that you tend to take with your trades in season and really try to look for the fallen premiums rather than paying top dollar in season? You don't worry about potentially spending up for your Butters, your Bonts, maybe Andersons at the start, but in season, are you really targeting those blokes that have maybe had a poor start for some reason and are at a pretty friendly price?
Yeah, pretty much. Nearly all of my trades, I'd say, were someone who I felt was under where they should be. So there was the ones we've mentioned, but then there was also Max Gawn at about 560. Sinclair was pretty cheap, and then eventually I got Dacos. I sort of held off from Dacos for a long time, but I think I eventually got him at about 550. So nearly all of them, outside of, I did pay up to get Bont eventually. I just had to get him in. I think he was nearly 700k or something, so he's the exception. But yeah, nearly all of the trades were the fallen premiums and guys who I felt like, even if their averages at the time weren't top 8 or top 6 or whatever, I felt like by the end of the year they should be close enough to it. Yeah.
So it's almost like you're not really, and I think this will be obvious due to the price points you're looking at, you're not really going for those players who are on a really hot run, that are smashing it out of the park, that lots of us go, look, we need to get this guy on my side desperately now. It's FOMO. You're going, no, look, let those guys go off in price. You other people pay up for those blokes. I'm going to target the guys that nobody loves at the moment. They're going through a bit of a lull. I just trust in their quality and their end to the year, and I'm going to bring these blokes in. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, and I think even with those guys that are killing it at the time, they're probably going to have a down week or two at some point. So yeah, you might miss out on a few big scores, and it does hurt to watch them go off like that. But eventually, pretty much everyone drops off, below 600K at some point. So you just got to be ready to pounce on those. I think, yeah.
Love it. So he's still going for the Blazers, Janath, but going to Savers. Still very good quality, very, very good quality, but he's getting it cheaper. So I really like that approach, mate. Now, I was listening to the great JB on the Dr. Supercoach podcast. And he had a great guest, CJ, on. I just want to ask you if you'd consider a similar move, or if you even made a similar move last year, mate. There was a point last year when Nick Martin went on a bit of a hot run, and he got to what CJ thought would be his highest price point. What he then decided to do was actually trade out Nick Martin to one of those fallen type premiums. And with the rest of his money, he was able to upgrade a bit of a dodgy mid-pricer to another fallen premium as well. So he's basically split Martin at his highest price point. Good fixtures gone. He's probably going to start to go down now. Is that something that you would ever consider, a bit of a sideways move when a player's at their highest price point?
It's not something I've really done, but I could see it if maybe your rookie cash gen is sort of really dried up, and you just need to find a way to do it. I think then I'd consider it, but generally I like just if they're playing well, I'd rather just keep them in my side, to be honest. Unfortunately I picked up Nick Martin the week he did his knee, so I sort of went the opposite way there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see that happening, but I think if your first choice is sort of sticking with downgrading rookies and playing that way. Yeah.
Just to touch on the rookies, JP mentioned something interesting in the last podcast, that he felt like he was almost ahead of the pack, 1 week ahead of the pack, and culled rookies a little bit earlier than what some other coaches did. He was happy to let go. Did you find the same thing last year with the timing of your trade outs? Did you feel like you were just a little bit of a step ahead lots of the other coaches?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was sort of lucky because a lot of my rookie picks panned out. And also, I traded quite aggressively to get those rookies in. So it felt like, I was always able to maybe go a week or so early. And it might hurt a little bit. Like I traded out Levi Ashcroft. I think he was around 350K. And he ended up, had a few more 90s and pushed his price up a bit more. And it hurts to see it, but you can get a premium in that same week, and you end up being ahead of everyone else in terms of how many premiums on field. So I think you can look to go a week or so earlier if sorry, my dog's just going crazy there.
He's getting up in a bed, I think, mate.
Yeah.
Loves it.
Sorry, I might have to just.
Don't apologise, mate. Janath, even the dog's getting around us at the moment, mate. And I'm in a sec. I'm going to get back to Blake and ask about the captains. I think he might read a particular article each week, but we'll see how we go there.
You make me blush, there.
No. Sorry, mate. Continue, mate. If you remember what you were even talking about.
No, I've lost it. I lost the train of thought.
No, that is fine, mate. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go to the next section here and ask you a question, and it's a vital decision each and every week. You may do a little bit more research with this. I'm not too sure. Maybe head to the third man up for some captaincy advice, Blake. But, mate, how do you go about, I'll just put it simply, how do you go about selecting your captain and your vice captain each week?
Yeah, so I had a bit of a checklist that I'd run through, and it'll be quite a bit different this year. But for me, last year was I'd look at the rucks first because I was playing Gorn, Cherry, and De Koning. So if any one of those had a good matchup, that's sort of where I'd go.
Yeah.
And then if there's nothing there, then I'd sort of look for a midfielder that was, I hate to say it, probably playing against Richmond or a team like Richmond. That was sort of the next thing. And then if there was still nothing there, then I might look at one of the defenders that, if they're playing a team that give up a lot of uncontested marks or things like that. But I very rarely sort of went that defender route. So I felt like generally there was a ruck or a midfielder that you could go and try and find a matchup that suited there.
Yeah.
But this year I'm not sure what's going to happen with the rucks. And
yeah, it's a great point. So it seems like in your winning year, mate, if I was to basically go 1, 2, 3, number one, you're prioritizing rucks, the big boys that you felt like you could really rely on, give you some nice ceiling scores. If there wasn't a really favorable matchup, you then go to the mids that are playing against, no offense, Richmond supporters, one of those weaker type sides. And then the third option, if nothing still floats your boats 1 or 2, you go for that friendly defender DVP where you think they may get a fair bit of the pill. So that's an interesting sort of hierarchy that you've got there. And as you said, if anyone's wondering why you may be changing things up this year, there is a lot of uncertainty about how the new rules are going to affect the rucks. And you've got people on absolute opposite ends of the spectrum. You've got the great Abs, the Skyfather coming down. He's a big believer that it's going to have massive impact on the big boys. The fact that he's even thought about going to cheaper guys. I think he's now gone up a little bit more now. But then you've got the other blokes, such as myself, who I'm just advocate, set and forget, start high, you can always go down. Just quickly, mate, touching on the rucks, are you a set and forget type man, or do you tend to play around and stuff around in the rucks like I've done in many years past?
Generally set and forget. We've gone and whoever else is sort of doing well at the time. Last year I had Tom De Koning, so that was kind of hard to set and forget. I think he came in, went out, came in, and then went out again. So it definitely wasn't set at all. Generally gone and whoever else has been what I've done. This year might be my first year without gone, maybe.
Oh,
I'm still not sure. I'm still working through that.
Can
Blake,
I ask you, is Sherry a lock? Sorry, Janath, is Sherry a lock for you, Blake?
Well, I sort of feel like he has to be. Just he won me at last year. Like he was my last trade in.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, man. Nice. X.
Kind of have to just probably run with him till he retires.
Blake, I just want to ask a couple of questions, sorry, just to touch on to the back of the in-season part, because I think there's so much to unpack in how you went about it last season with all the new additions. So, Blake, I'm just going to ask a couple of questions regarding your in-season, because I think it's so fascinating how you went about it, especially with the new flex and all that, having 3 rucks, that sort of thing. So, just in the essence of picking a captain, you don't really care about a player's form leading up to that matchup, how they went at a certain venue, how they've gone against that opposition in the past. It's just that season against that opposition, how have other players in that position gone? Is that the essence of picking a captain for you?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm looking for, last year it was probably rucks against West Coast, or there was a few other teams sort of like that. Yeah. And that sort of plays out as the year goes on. You're not really sure. Those first few weeks, it's a bit unknown, but you get a pretty good idea after a month or two of where teams stand and the sort of matchups you want to try and exploit. Yeah.
And Blake, I just want to touch on very quickly. So you mentioned you trade in Tristan Sherry right at the end of the season for the 187, the 186. It might have been the last round, but I do want to ask you, a player like Brodie Grundy, and this is something which plays a lot in my mind, especially is, if you want to win Supercoach, do you need to be on the guys that go on those insane runs? Did you own Brodie Grundy in that run where he just kept putting out 150s every week? Or did you manage to dodge that and still win?
No, I did have him. I think I had most of that sort of big run.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then my last trade was when he got concussed. So 2 weeks to go, I was able to trade him to Cherry. And then Captain Cherry in the last round as well.
So basically, you got the best of both worlds.
Yes. So, it kind of just all worked out. I ended up that ruckman went on a pretty crazy run. They probably averaged about 150 or 60 between the two of them. And captaining Cherry in that last round is because I won by about 15 points, I think. So there was no other ruck that could have got the job done. Had to be Big X.
So was there any players that you regretted not owning throughout the season? If you can recall?
I was never able to get Naz into my team. So that was always a pretty tough watch.
Okay.
And Luke Jackson for periods was pretty hard to watch as well. So that were probably the two big ones that I was always kind of trying to look at. When can I get them in? And it just never really happened. And then I was always looking at Neil and Merritt as well. I kept sort of waiting to get Neil and Merritt in my team. And sort of pretty luckily the opportunity never popped up, and that sort of worked out for the best.
Exactly. Well, it's interesting you mentioned, because with the Winter Olympics going on right now, Blake, we're not going to say you did quite a Stephen Bradbury on theme, because you were second going into the final round. So you did have to get the jump on. I'm going to just stick with the theme of in-season trade management just for a second. Near the end of the season, did you trade in any pods or any points of difference when you sort of got the expectation that you could genuinely win in this scenario? You're just a little bit behind. Were you trading into pods? Were you playing conservatively? What was like your line of thinking?
Yeah, I think I was sort of constantly looking at the teams around me and how I can sort of how I can climb the ranks a little bit. But it gets sort of pretty hard towards that point of the season. You're sort of running low on trades, and you're trying to conserve trades. So yeah, it really was like Cherry. I don't think anyone in the top 10 had Cherry, so that was sort of this is the perfect pod to bring in. But other than that, it got to the point where I was like, I have to go against Naz, and I have to go against Luke Jackson, and just hope that they can have a few quiet weeks.
One other thing, mate. Sorry, the questions are just coming to mind here off the top of the head. Boosts. This is something I want to know. How aggressive were you with your boosts? Did you decide to just go bang, bang, bang at the start to get that head start on the competition, or did you save one or two for the buys, maybe for some absolute carnage? How did you manage your boosts during the season?
Yeah, I think I was probably through. I'd probably used 3 or 4 through the first few rounds. So I was pretty aggressive with the boosts early. Maybe it wasn't 4, but yeah, I definitely used a few early. And then my last boost would have been sometime during the buys. So yeah, I think you can really, really set your team up by trading, pretty aggressively early. And then it is nice to have in the 1 or 2 boosts during that buy period.
Yeah,
because you're never quite sure how many players you're actually going to have on a given week. So it is nice to have that extra trade up your sleeve.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Awesome to hear there, Blake, because I think boost is still something which even me, I haven't got my head around. I think I've left a boost in the bank in the last 2 years. It's like you either use it at the start, and then in the buys, you're like, oh, do I need to use 4? But you never want to come out of the buys with a boost, because you're probably never going to use it if it's got to that stage there. Blake, I just want to talk about the last Sunday, because it's different for you. M and JP had both, I reckon, sewn up the win, basically leading into that Sunday. But for you, Blake, how was that last weekend? Just take us through into the mind of you in that week, leading up to it, when you knew you had it in the bag, all of those things. Just give us as much of an anecdote as possible.
Sorry, can I just jump in before you do? I just need a bit of time. I'm just going to try to visualize that it's me in his position. I'm there. Okay. Sorry, Blake. Go ahead, mate.
Yeah, it was pretty stressful. I'd sort of, to be honest, I wouldn't say I'd given up, but with about 3 weeks to go, I was sitting at I think 5th or 6th, and I was a little bit behind the top place. So I just wanted to finish in the top 10. That was sort of where I was at that stage. And then being able to save that trade, and all of a sudden I'm coming second with a week to go, and it made it pretty stressful. And then like Cherry played on the Saturday morning, I think, or it was one of the early games on Saturday, and I had him captain. So I had a pretty good idea that I was going to at least I was going to be pretty close. I was trying to do like a bit of a tally, but I didn't know who was captain. I didn't have anyone on the inside giving me any kind of information about other teams. So, no, there's none of that. I was just sort of trying to figure out where they'd be at, and I knew that if they had have gone Bontempelli captain, I was probably going to win. But Butters scored 190, and might have been another big score in there as well. So I didn't know for sure. So it was pretty stressful, and it was just kind of constantly refreshing the phone up until I think it was about 11 o'clock at night when the scores kind of came out. So it was a pretty long wait. Yeah.
Now I want to ask, just as a follow up, was it a good sleep, or did you stay up? What's going on through your mind when you found out you just won 50K at 11 o'clock at night?
Surely a nudie run down the local down around the court.
Yeah, I don't think you could call it a sleep. It's just kind of the adrenaline was kind of kicking through, and it didn't feel real, to be honest. Yeah.
Did you end up figuring out who your Sorry, Blake. Did you end up figuring out who your pods were in that last round? Between you and who ended up second?
Yeah, I think there was a few there. Grundy had come back from his concussion, and I didn't have him. I'd traded him out to Cherry. So Grundy was playing West Coast, I think. So I was pretty scared about that. Obviously, there was Naz and Luke Jackson. I think there might have been 6 or 7, or there was a few pods actually. I can't remember all of them, but I was trying to keep track, and luckily I felt like most of the guys that I had all done pretty well, and I also looped Angus Clark on field, which was a bit of I think he scored 110, and I looped him for McCarthy, who might have scored 80. So there was another 30 points that sort of got me over the line as well. That was another pretty big one in the scheme of things.
Everything came up for you. Like, yes.
So I was just going to say, it goes to show, right? We've talked about the fact that, look, realistically, you need a little bit of luck to fall your way, most likely to go all the way, but it's great decision making. And the word that I've got circled and circled and circled here is timing. It's all about getting the timing right. If you're a week early, if you're a week late, you just fall behind. And it's making those crucial decisions at the right time. Like when Blake went shopping for your Rows and your Dawsons, that was the ideal time to jump on those blokes, not after they've come back into form. You get on them 4 weeks later when you've got a little bit more confidence about them, because this man here is already sitting there with him and saving 100 odd K at the same time. So I think you've got to give yourself a little bit more credit, Blake. You came from behind, no Bradbury type style, but you did come from behind, but it was your decision making, like getting X in, making him your captain, taking the Clark score over McCarthy, which still would have been a little bit nervous because he's the sort of bloke that can still go 100 and maybe even a little bit more if things go well. So, pat on the back for yourself, because you just got the timing perfect there, mate. Your decision making towards particularly the end of the season, just perfection.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. Yeah. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, Blake, we want to know, so in terms of I know personally, I listen to a fair few podcasts. D, I know certainly you listen to a fair few podcasts and other forums, community input. How important would you say community input, like those forums and podcasts, were to your mindset in terms of how you went about making decisions in a week? Did you like to listen to a range of stuff and then sort of pinpoint what you took out of it? Or did you make up your mind first and then listen? Or did you not listen at all to anything?
I'd say I definitely listened to more podcasts last year than I probably ever had. Just after, like, I had a pretty good start to the year, so I felt like, maybe I'm in with a little bit of a chance at something here. So yeah, I was trying to consume sort of as much as I could, but still, like, you've always kind of got to go with your gut, and quite often that first thought that you have is the one you have to stick with. In the end, you can kind of just overcomplicate things, and so yeah, I think it's good to take in as much as you can and get a bit of a feel for what some of the other top players might be doing. But yeah, in the end, I think you've just got to go with your gut.
Yeah. Can't beat it.
Awesome.
Cannot beat it.
It's
yeah,
the purest form. There's nothing better than Sunday night trades, is there? The first thing when you open it up and the first trades you put in are normally your best trades.
They are. And what have the previous winners said, Janath? They do not overcomplicate things. They go with the gut. They get a bit of a feel for the data, what the community is doing. But ultimately, you play your own game and you make your own decisions. So I could imagine, Blake, it would have been pretty hard to block out the group think. Were there people trying to give you a lot of advice? Do this, don't do that type thing? Or did people sort of leave you alone a little bit and leave you to your own devices?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've got a few group chats, and it was never like they were trying to force anything onto me. I think they sort of respected where I was at and what I was doing, and they had their ideas, and I think sometimes I sort of ended up going with them, but most of the time, you want to do your own thing, and as I said, like, more often than not, that first gut instinct is what ends up working. So yeah, you don't want to be making like a group project team. It's got to be your own in the end.
Very, very good advice.
I want to ask you, because we could have asked it earlier, but there's three key parts to any sort of decisions you make in Supercoach, really, is that you've got data, you've got the eye test, and you've got knowledge/research. What sort of percentages would you attribute to each of those when you're making a decision? Like, are you more of an eye test guy? Do you believe in the data? Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix, but I think like the amount of time I'd sort of spend throughout the week looking at players' scores, and I'd probably have to say that I'm spending quite a bit of time looking at the data. I'm also watching a lot of games, and so it is that sort of mix between the both. But there's only so much you can get out of what they've done in the past. You do have to watch and see where they're playing, and maybe they kicked a late goal to win their team the game, and that's why their scores 30 more than it should be. There's things like that you need to take into account. Yeah,
it's really context for scoring, isn't it? Context for scoring, because it happens so often. This is a game unlike AFL fantasy where there are a few secret herbs and spices involved in scoring. And you're absolutely right, mate. You're absolutely right. Having context for scoring, I think, is super important. Janath, is there anything else you wanted to touch on while we're reminiscing about last season before we crack into 2026?
I think we picked Blake's brain to the fullest.
Poor bugger.
But yes, I think it's a great time to move into 2026. And what advice Blake can give to those that are at the upper end this season?
All right. Well, firstly, Blake, question. When did you first open the Supercoach app? Are you a team picker type man? December comes out, bang, let's jump straight into it. Or are you more like our great friend JP, and you go, nah, I'm just going to kick back, relax, done it before type thing. I'll get into things a little bit later, like the old boys coming back to pre-season. What's your approach? How early did you get started here, buddy?
Yeah, I definitely didn't open it, when it first opened. Yeah, I'm generally, I like to leave it pretty late. I think the longer you spend in it during preseason, the more that I think it's just a bit of time can be a bit wasted there. Like your team's going to look so different come round one. So yeah, I'm trying not to sort of overthink it at this stage. There's a lot can happen in the few weeks before we start up. And I've got NBA Supercoach to worry about at the moment. So
same as JP.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you going? Very quickly, NBA Supercoach, having some success?
I'm coming about 400th. So
very similar.
Very
similar. Yeah,
it's tough. Like it's so different. It's so different to the AFL. Like it's just a completely different game, isn't it?
Oh, good fun though, man. Good fun. It's really got me back in love with the NBA again. Like I was, when I was a kid, Jordan, Barkley, Shaq, all these greats, super into it then, but sort of faded out over the years, but right back on track now. And OKC, Janath, SGA baby, injured at the moment, which did hurt some Supercoach side. Now, mate, we've asked you when you open Supercoach, you're a bit of a late bloomer when it comes to that. Very, very quickly, and it does come back to what we almost touched on before about how you structure up your side. But very quickly, looking into 2026, when you are creating this side, what do you tend to do first? Do you lock in the must-have rookies? Do you go with the primos that you think are the big boys, captain options, and then fill it in with some mid-prices? What's your, I suppose, order in hierarchy when you're actually creating your side, mate?
I'm not really too sure about it. I think I just sort of go through the lines, start with my defenders, midfielders, forwards. I'm not really looking at going, just premiums first. And, I think, I'll have to go through my team and, as we were saying before, I'll try and get Bont in there, and like there's still a lot of reshuffling to do. And at this stage, I'm really not. I'm not too worried about how my team's looking right now, and I think once you hear what the teams are, and that's when you can sort of start to. That's when I'm going to start to stress anyway.
Such a good point, because you look at the rookies. Like there's some of these blokes who are selected now, like Lindsay, for example, from West Coast, may not even play come round one. There are always those blokes each and every single year that come absolutely out of the wilderness. It's like, who is this fella? Never looked at him before, but all of a sudden they're playing round one. So good advice there, mate. You're not too hung up about starting with rookies, premiums, whatever. You just wait, see who you like, and then crack in from there. So very, very good advice again, mate. Now, how about focusing on some players? Any just lock and throw away the key selections, absolute no-brainers that you got in your side this year?
I think like Jagger Smith was probably one of the first I picked.
Yes.
But sort of, I think one of the first I picked was probably Callahan, and he's not a traditional lock and throw away the keys, but I want him in my team, and I think he's going to be a star. So,
sorry, I'm excited.
Look at this echo chamber here. the Callahan echo chamber. Everyone says Callahan.
Yes, it's so
he's just so fun to watch. So whether he's as good as we hope he is in Supercoach, I don't know. He's a joy to watch. So other than that, I guess I've got Sam Darcy in at the moment. It's again not a lock, but I want to start him. I want to watch him play and enjoy that every week. So.
Yeah, that's so true. The enjoyment factor. He's my favourite player to watch. How about, can I ask you then, is it Sheasel and Flanders that you're looking at, or are you considering fade any of those two? Because I think for most teams, it's pretty much select, and really don't think too much about it. Or have you got any thoughts about that?
I've got Sheasel and Flanders at the moment. Sheasel, Flanders, and Darcy.
Okay. No
But
Petrarca.
yeah, no
Yeah.
Petrarca at the moment.
Yep.
I was sort of tossing up between him and Darcy, but again, I want to watch Darcy play and enjoy having him in my team. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know how these rules are going to affect the game, but if it is, they're trying to make it more free flowing, and if that is the case,
Yeah.
I think it should help someone like
benefit.
Darcy. So,
Done.
so yeah, that's sort of how those forwards are looking at the moment.
Beautiful, mate. Now, we need to ask you, and hopefully you're at the pointy end again this year, but for any coaches out there that are currently tuning in at the moment, have you got any advice for them if they find themselves red hot in the hunt to take out the prize in 2026? Any advice for anyone that is in a similar position to what you were last year towards the back end of the season, mate?
Yeah, well, if there's anything like me, you need to hold your trades for as long as you can, and then sort of as we've spoken, just go with your gut. Like, if it's meant to be, then the players that you got in your team, they'll get the job done. And I think with those pods at the back end, if you are sort of chasing the top team and you're a little bit behind, that you got to try and find a way to make up some difference there. So I think that's, if there's ever a time to be a little bit creative and look for someone different, it is at that later stage. I'm all for playing it safe for 90% of the season, but I think right at the end is where you can look to make up a little bit of ground like that.
And what a gem. What a gem
So
piece of
good.
advice at the back end of the podcast. Like, if people have somehow tuned out by now, which I absolutely doubt it, then just missed just another nugget that this man's given us. And look, it's a pretty simple approach. There's no magical numbers or formulas here. You're just a bloke that likes to go a little bit aggressive at the start, go on cruise control in the middle, and then get funky at the end if you need to. You're not creating this outrageous starting side to try to go different from the pack. You're happy to start a little bit vanilla, add some sprinkles along the way, and then chuck a big Kit Kat in there at the end if you need to do it. I was going to say flake, but I like the Kit Kat.
The Kit Kat.
Kit Kat Chunky Aero, we talked about this, is the best chocolate in the world, and I won't hear anything else. So, mate.
Well, Blake, I don't know if you agree with that. Do you agree with that? You don't have to agree with that.
I think that's spot on, to be honest. I think it's just absolutely nailed it there.
Oh, what a potty. What a potty. He's not starting Bont. He loves arrows. He's from the great town of Inverloch or around the area. Just, oh my goodness, Janath, the quality that we've been getting on. No one else can get him. No one else can get him.
No one else can get him.
What an honor, Janath. Like, wow, mate. Wow,
yeah. Blake, before I put a big question to you, I won't scare you actually, but just to summarize, DR, you mentioned everything, all of that, about how the starting squad can be vanilla based on what Blake said. But the other points you've raised, Blake, across the potty, go with your gut, don't overcomplicate it, pay up for your primo, so don't really cheap out in them, and don't worry about fixtures too much because you want to keep them throughout the entirety of the season. With your boosts, use them at the start of the season or hold them a little bit to that upgrade season/buy area. I think the biggest takeaway for me is you can be aggressive and conservative at the same time with your trades. Like, you don't have to burn through all of them by round 16, but you can also use all of them up until round 10, hold off, or let's say the buys, hold off, and then you can have a good conservative end to the season there. And also the mix of the data and the eye test. I think that's a really good thing that a lot of coaches, if you can watch the games, it is infinitely better than just going off what the data says because it's decontextualized. DR, did you have any other main takeaways from Blake's chat?
I'm just writing one more down there, and my page is full, as you can probably see there. But you talked about, really putting the foot on the gas and then being conservative in that mid part. I actually think that Blake has saved himself a couple of trades that no one's even talking about or thinking about here through his fallen premium selections. So while other people are paying, say, 100K more for players than what Blake did, well, what do we value a trade at these days? Traditionally, I've always said 150K, but now that we've got 40, some people, and it's each their own, but some people are bringing that value down potentially closer to the 100K, whatever floats your boat. But I think that's something that's really underrated to what Blake did last year. The way he went shopping and he saved and actually got the bargains while they're on special before the prices have gone right back up again, and other people have gone to shop and you need to just simply pay up. So I think that's a really underrated, I don't know if you call it strategy or part of Blake's successful season last year. Just brilliant, mate.
Yeah. How many keepers / premiums did you end up with, Blake, at the end of the season?
I think it was just a full team. I don't think I had a sort of a spare premium. I guess there was Tom McCarthy. There was Tom McCarthy there, so I guess there was
That's
one
good
extra.
enough.
I was toying around with bringing in. I'm trying to think who it was, but yeah, there was one point where I could get an extra player in, but I was sort of, it would burn through an extra trade, and I just felt like keeping it where it was with just the full team of premiums was enough, and keeping that trade would be more important in the end. So if you can get a spare premium, and you're able to manage it and hold a trade or two here, then that's great. But I couldn't quite do it in the end for me.
So only get that extra premium on the bench if you've got a couple of extra trades on the bank that you can use if you really need them. So you wouldn't advise using your last trade or last two trades, for example, to get that extra premium that people might want to loop. You're just saving that for a rainy day at the end to get an advantage here, mate.
Yeah. I think if you
Brilliant.
can leave that last trade for as long as possible, because the Grundy, when he got injured, there was 2 rounds to go. So there was still 1 round, and I can't remember who, but I did have someone injured, so I still didn't quite make it the full, throughout the full season with the trade there. So yeah, you just got to try and make it last as long as you can.
Yeah. Now, Blake, this is the ultimatum question. How many likes on this GOAT series episode do we need to get an exclusive team reveal from you before the 2026 season starts? It's up to you, mate. It's all in your corner. We'll let the viewers decide if they want that reveal, but it needs to be a likes amount. It's all up to you, mate.
What's a rough sort of
anything?
ratio
You can say anything, mate. Just we'll get the viewers can get to work on it. An exclusive team reveal. How
100 likes. 100
likes. There you go, guys.
Is that? I'm not sure. Is that low? Is that low for you?
No, that's no. Well, we haven't got 100. We haven't got 100 yet. I don't think for the GOAT series yet. We're getting there.
There's been no incentive. There hasn't been an incentive.
That's right.
Now you've got an incentive. Right. You heard it here first. 100 likes on this video, and we will get Blake on for an exclusive team reveal before the 2026 season. Exclusive on Supercoach Swordplay. Well, Blake, I can't thank you.
Yes, come on.
You know what? DR might go and make 40 alt accounts tonight just to make sure we get to 100 likes.
Hey, I've never worn this, right? From the grand final.
You did not cop that.
Snoop Dizzle, baby. Snoop Dizzle. It's worth it, mate. It's one of those moments. Right? Where you've just got to bring the big guns out. Snoop Dizzle, baby. That's in the 2025 grand final.
Oh, that's incredible.
Oh, man,
check that out.
Well, look,
it's one of those times.
Before this potty goes on the rails, I think we better thank Blake. Thank you so much for your time, mate. The 3rd episode of the GOAT series, our most recent winner. We've had an absolute epic time just picking your brain. Blake, DR, what do you have to say? Oh, that was so good.
I'm almost lost for words now, Janath. We've picked his brain. We've asked him a million questions. I'm sure that Blake is just absolutely mentally fried at the moment after thinking all the way back to last year to this year, everything that he's done. But again, mate, in all seriousness, you're an absolute top bloke, a ripping bloke. We're really looking forward to meeting you. and you have just delivered in spades. You've gone over and above what I was expecting having a chat with you. Not that I had low expectations, very high expectations from the start, but you have just delivered with an absolute bang, mate, and such a worthy winner from last year. And again, for the last time, I know I keep saying it, it's an honor, it's a privilege, and cannot thank you enough, mate, for spending the last hour with us, mate. And the community is going to be much better off after this, mate.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys. It's been a lot of fun, and look forward to the team reveal. It's exciting.
No. Come on. Well, if you guys haven't got your season guide yet, make sure to use Blake's code WINNER25 to get 10% off your season guide. It's releasing on the 21st, just 10 days away. Can you believe it? So if you haven't got yours yet, again, WINNER25, we'll put all the details to buy that guide in the description of this, along with all of Blake's details as well, where you can get in contact with him or anything if you want to scour his brain a little bit more. Well, we'll leave it there, but this isn't the last episode of the GOAT series. We did say it was going to be 3 parts, DR, but we've got a good friend, a former winner that's going to be back. He'll be back for our 4th part of the GOAT series. Stay tuned. See you guys. Peace.